Hello, everyone. I'm just waiting for sweet Karlina to join us. Um, I'm just experiencing a couple of technical difficulties right now, so just bear with me. Um, can all of you see me? Just curious. So what we're going to be discussing today is what exists beyond the five senses. So for all of you, have you ever wondered if you could actually tap into your knowing more? Hello, everyone. I'm just waiting for sweet Karlina to join us. And as you can hear, I'm listening to myself in the background. How cute am I? I'm just going to change that for a minute. Okay, here we go with more technical difficulties. Okay, sorry about that, guys. I have so many windows up, I'm almost confused by myself here. So our discussion today is that we are talking about going beyond the five senses, and as soon as we get Karlina on, we'll talk more about that. She is an access consciousness facilitator who also is a facilitator of something called Talk to the Entities, which is a really cool class where you can learn a lot of tools about tapping into exactly what we've been talking about, like going beyond your five senses. So how many of us in our lives have had these senses that, we could be, dreaming about something, or that we could be also thinking about someone and they show up and we wonder, like, how does that happen? And sometimes for some people it happens more than others. So this is part of what it is about going beyond the five senses. And in Access, we have a lot of tools that start to expand our consciousness in different ways. And one of them is that we can start to expand also beyond this reality of what we consider to be a normal sort of way of being. So we are looking to be able to share with people these tools so that they can expand their lives as well. As you can tell, I'm in the midst of getting Karlina on here again, so let's just see what happens. And so you guys know, you are absolutely invited to go into the chat room. I've opened up a chat, so feel free to go into the chat room and ask any questions you have about what are the five senses, and with five senses, what exactly do we mean when we're talking about? Some people talk about ESP as one of the sixth senses, and then really, what if we can enhance the ones that we've got, and how much more could we perceive, know, be, and receive if we chose to do that? So I'm gonna see if I can, if you guys can give me 1 minute, where I'm gonna see if I can have Karlina join me here. I'm just gonna see what she's doing, and I apologize for this delay. It's getting kind of funny for me. Whatever I've done here, I've done something crazy, and I appreciate the people who are viewing and are still with me. So Karlina, where are you, my darling? So if you would like to join the chat, go right ahead. One of the things that I'd like to promote while we're on here is that Karlina Vanderwey will be in Toronto, lucky for us, coming August 8th, 9th, and 10th, and she's offering classes to expand our capacities and our knowing beyond what we already think we know. And some of those tools that we're going to use are tools that will expand you beyond those five senses. So as a child, I know that I had a lot of different capacities that I wasn't totally sure of what they were. I had some capacities that were I was able to kind of sense things. I also had a sense things about the future. I had a capacity to sense things about people, about energies, about even about ghosts. And somewhere along the way, I kind of lost them or chose to avoid them or ignore them or not play with them. So if any of you out there have ever thought, oh, well, I think I have a bit of this capacity, but I'm not really sure how to tap into it, how to utilize it, what to do with it, I would totally encourage you to start playing with tools that would, say, have you choose to um, be more aware. So one of the tools I would use is, hey, so if I can sense this, how does it get any better than that? Or what more could I be, perceive, and receive if I were to choose it? So the founder of Access, Gary Douglas, he actually asked one day, basically just asked in the energies what it would be like to be able to channel. And then a little while later, he started channeling. It wasn't that he had never been channeling before, because he probably had been to some degree. However, all of a sudden, he had this amazing capacity show up. So if you think that it would be fun to have a capacity and you're thinking, well, how do I get that? What if you can just ask? And some of the class that Karlina will be facilitating, although it's called Talk to the Entities isn't just about the entities of ghosts. It's about so many other things. So businesses are entities, and so are people. Guess what? You're an entity. So what if we could learn to speak to ourselves as an entity, to our businesses as an entity, and to so many other things that are entities. And here's my lovely, hi Karlina.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. Have you been entertained by my splee the last few minutes?
No, actually, I haven't been able to get on, so this is the first
Okay.
I'm on.
Okay, cool. So I told them a little bit about how you're going to be facilitating some amazing classes in Toronto for people that will be able to then learn some tools to allow them to go beyond those five senses that we're all born and taught that we have. I talked a little bit about ESP and how a lot of us just consider ESP to be like the main sixth sense. And I talked a
Right.
little bit about how when I was a kid that I had senses that were actually, those five senses that I have, but they were enhanced, and that I would be able to perceive things in the future and be able to have this sense of perceiving energies of people who have passed on, and also a few other things, and then I shut it off. Not totally, but I had a lot of fear around entities. And I spoke a little bit how entities are not just us. They're not just ghosts. There are so many other things. So feel free to enhance on whatever I just kind of shared with you and what you would like to share about beyond the five senses. And I also mentioned to them you're a certified access consciousness facilitator and that you facilitate Talk to the Entities classes as well. So
Cool.
Go ahead, take her away, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you. Um, well, yeah, I mean, you did a really great introduction, and it is really what is an entity? Entity is actually anything and everything. So, you in your body is an entity, a piece of music, a poem, a painting, a business, all of those are entities, and really it's anything that you give life to becomes its own entity. And so you can actually be aware of and get a sense of all of these entities beyond your five senses. So the five senses being, taste, touch, smell, sight, and hearing. I had to think about that last one. And
Right here.
I know, I'm like, what's the fifth one? And even though those are the five senses that we talk about in this reality, uh, we are aware of so much more. And that's one of the places that entities come in as well, is everything is an entity. And if you think about an artist, and let's say they create a painting. you very often hear artists say how they created exactly what they were led to create, or they heard this thing or felt this thing, and from that they created this beautiful painting or a song. It's like if you listen to how the songwriters write these songs, it's like, yeah, I just got this information, or I was aware of this tune, and from that the words came and everything just flowed together. It's very much something that is beyond these five senses. And so my question is, what are you aware of that is beyond these five senses? And whether we call it a sixth sense or, what did you call it? ESP, right? Isn't
DSP,
that
yeah,
the,
the
yeah.
common
I
name. Yeah.
forget. Yeah, exactly. Um, we have all these different terminologies for it. Even intuition is really an awareness that you have beyond these five senses. So really, what are you aware of, and what are you communicating with? Who or what? Is it something that inspires you? Is it a creation that would like to be created by you to basically birth into this world? So, yeah, go
So,
ahead.
Carlina, are some of these energies contributions to people and some of them may not be?
Absolutely. And so you just want to ask, it's like, I mean, again, very often you get a sense of something that's fun or exciting, or that can contribute to you, um, that can bring something yummy or fun into your life. And then there's other things where maybe you get kind of creeped out, or you're like, oh, I don't know about this one. This doesn't feel very fun. And that's where you have to start trusting yourself, and you have to start trusting your senses and your awareness, again beyond the five senses that we talk about in this reality, of what is actually fun for you, what is actually a contribution, what is actually light and joyous and something that you would want to play with, rather than the thing that kind of makes you go, oh, I don't know if I'd want to choose that right now. Those are the things you're probably gonna not choose, or you're gonna take a different direction, or you're not gonna go down that path or play with that energy. Yeah.
Yeah. So when I was first looking at Talk to the Entities classes, I had this I felt, and it wasn't a heaviness, but that's how I interpreted it. It was like when I asked,
Right.
if I choose this, what will my life be like in 5 years? And this funny energy came up. And then I listened to a call from, I think it was Blossom, and she said something like, Blossom Benedict, who's also in Access Consciousness, she said that, keep asking the questions, because even when it's heavy, keep asking. And
Yeah,
so when I
and
asked again, it was like, it was not that it was heavy, that it was not for me. It was that they required more questions. And some of the questions were more like, if I choose this, what will my life be like in 5 years? And then it just went expansive. It was uh, more so than like when I had asked, will this be fun? Because it was more about changing something for me that I wasn't willing to really choose. It was like something I'd been avoiding my whole life.
yes, and that's a very good point, because changing your life, it's going it's going to create something in the future, and it may not be fun at that specific moment, because you're probably going to have to look at something that you have been avoiding, or that you haven't been willing to look at. And that's what Talk to the Entities is a lot about. It's really, we have this gift of being aware of absolutely everything. And for most of us, if you're talking about entities being ghosts or spirits or anything like that, really the question comes up of like, how crazy am I if I speak to ghosts? Like, that's just not cool. I am
Absolutely
definitely
insane.
not going to let anybody know I do that. But what is actually true is that entities are everywhere. The spirits, the ghosts, the whatever you want to call them, they are everywhere, and it's whether or not you choose to be aware of them, or whether you choose to block them out. Okay, because we're
How
really
much
good
fun,
at putting up the walls and blocking them out.
right? And if they are everywhere, right, which I've always sensed them to be, how
Yeah,
much can they contribute to our lives if we choose to ask them? Like,
absolutely. And
I had this little conversation with you a little while ago. It was more in an email, and I was like, I forgot that. Like, what if we asked the entities to contribute
Yeah.
to us? And that's where I went
Yeah.
forgotten, right? So it
Yeah.
was a good reminder. Thank you for that.
Yeah, and currently I'm in the Netherlands. I just actually finished about 10 days of classes with the founder of Talk to the Entity, Shannon O'Hara, and I also run the company Talk to the Entities. We actually did the beginners class and then the intermediate class and then the advanced class and then the facilitators training. So
Oh wow.
all through that, yeah, it was really amazing actually. It was really fun. And all through that was a connection through all of those classes of not only connecting with yourself, but also connecting with the entities and communicating with them. And like you said, asking them to contribute, asking them, what they're good at, would they like to contribute, and basically asking them, okay, cool, you want to? Awesome, please do. How can you contribute? What can what would you like to play with? And
I like that
having a
question of what
conversation.
are they good at?
Yes,
That's really
it's
cool. Like, what are they good at? Because they're all different, right? Just like we're all different and we have different capacities. Like, you know,
exactly.
Ghost Jane, she might have a capacity that is like to bring people to me, but Ghost Bob might have some other capacity to just maintain my sanity. I'm
Yeah,
not really sure, but or to, when I ask the question that, what question can I ask that maybe he's actually contributing to that. So
yeah.
if,
I like
yeah,
how
if they
you
all
have
actually
Yeah, I like how you have Ghost Jane and Ghost Bob.
have,
That's funny. Yeah, but it really is. I mean, it's essentially just like people with bodies. These are essentially beings without bodies. So, how can they contribute to you? And would they like to? Because if they would, then are you willing to allow them to contribute to you? And that's the real question.
that's a really good big one, right? Because they could be
Yeah.
willing to contribute all the time, and we're like, there's this noise going on, and I can't stand it, so go away. And I had so much metaphysical training on getting rid of them
Yes.
that it's like, oh my God, I probably had this crew of thousands willing to contribute to me, yet I'd been trained on how to protect myself from them and
Yes.
eliminate them.
Yeah.
So I go,
And
wow, what stupidity was that?
yeah, and that's really where what these Talk to the Entities classes that you were talking about at the beginning, that's what they're about. They really start, and especially the introduction, really starts with clearing a lot of those fears that we have bought into that may or may not be ours, but that bought into as we have to be afraid, or we can't do this, or this is weird, this is strange, you can't talk to ghosts, you can't see them, you can't hear them. But it's like people actually hear voices in their head, okay? And they're not crazy. They're just very, very aware. So, you know, yeah, I know, right? Thank goodness. Why didn't somebody tell me that earlier?
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, or how many people have you known where they're like they see something out of the corner of their eye and they're like, oh, and they look over and it's like, huh, there's nothing there. But is there truly nothing there, or is there just nothing there that you can see with these eyes? But what are you aware of, and what did you see when you were focused on something else, but you saw something in your peripheral vision? Okay, because
Mhm.
very often if we keep ourselves busy with something in front of us, we become more aware of the things that are around us. So, what are you aware of?
So true.
What senses do you have beyond? What senses do you have beyond these five senses?
And how many people, too, I'm wondering out there who have had these glimpses and denied them and would like to maybe now explore them.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's really what Talk to the Entities is about. It's about clearing away all of the judgments. It's about clearing away the fears that you might have bought into. And it's about allowing you to be you and to discover what you really are aware of. And it doesn't mean you have to go start talking to entities. Okay, it's not like you then have to open a business and become some kind of a medium or anything like that. Um,
Okay, good. You don't have,
we do
you don't have to
have
be
quite
born.
a, sorry?
You don't have to be born a psychic, medium, mystic
No,
to take this class.
absolutely
Really?
not. Absolutely not. No. And, we do have people who are mediums who come and they learn completely different skills, completely different than anything they've ever known. And then we have people who are come off the streets and they don't even know why they're there. And it's like, I just had to be here. I have no idea why. And it's like, cool. But one of the things pretty much everybody receives through those classes is less fear of what they are aware of and more awareness of what they're actually aware of.
That is so fun for me. This is, um, for a long time, well, I'm 39 in this body. So in this lifetime, I've actually worked as a psychic publicly for over
Cool.
15 years. Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, I guess you didn't know that. So,
No,
and
I didn't
a
know
lot of
that.
yeah, a lot of the business that I've done to actually generate an income has been based on what I can perceive in the future, uh, or not perceive, or possibilities for the future, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of the time until I came to Access, I was doing a lot of this work that was, um, perceiving energies beyond what most people think they
Right.
can perceive. And 90% of the time, my sense was like, guys, like, let's wake up. Like, all of you can do what I'm
Yes.
doing. They would try and make
Yes.
me special. And I'm like, no,
Yes.
guys, you don't get that all of us can do this. And I think in some funny ways, I actually kind of destroyed my business in a way
Yes.
that I was, because I was like, guys, come on, would like all of you to know that you can do
Yeah,
this.
you were trying to empower people instead of giving them what they're asking for to tell them what, is going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, way to
So
go.
now I can do both. I choose to do both.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, it was really funny. Even before Access,
Yeah.
I was actually destroying it because I wanted to empower people.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of access consciousness, and it's also the beauty of talk to the entities, is they're really pragmatic tools that you get to take home, you get to play with, and you get to change your life with. And whether you apply it to entities or whether you apply it to different things, like even the question of, okay, if I choose this, what will my life be like in 5 years? It just gives you an awareness of something that is either open and expansive and kind of light and joyful, or something that is more contractive and it's not so fun and it's, a little heavier, and it just doesn't feel good. So you're just starting to increase your awareness and become aware of more and not cutting it off necessarily anymore, which is something that we've all been trained to do in this world.
Yeah, haven't we though? And everything has pretty much promoted that since
Yes,
from I think since the time, even probably in utero, shutting off my awareness. Like, who wants to feel
absolutely.
right? Like, you could feel all this stuff as an infant. There's
Yeah.
this movie Lucio now, right? And she's like opened up all her
Yes, I
capacities.
so want to see that.
So amazing. And I was like, wow, how many people on Access contributed to creating this? It's so cool. And at one point she's describing that as she's opening up to more of her um, brain capacity, neurological connections, that she's sensing like what her mother sensed when she was in utero. And how
Right.
many of us can already do that? We're just choosing to shut it off.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And that's what we learn in this world. It's like if you don't want to know it, or if you don't like it, or if it doesn't feel good, then just put a wall up and shut it out. Just put the shutters, like close the shutters and don't be aware of it. But the thing is, it's like when you put a wall up or you close the door or you close the shutters, whatever it might be, you're closing off so much more than just that one little thing that you've decided you don't want to be aware of. You're closing off a whole world of awareness. And
Mhm.
that's pretty much when we get hit sideways by whatever, and then we're like, well, what the hell just happened? And it's because we've cut off our awareness to that, so we couldn't see it coming. But it's very much like what I was saying before. It's like if I'm looking straight ahead, but I'm willing to be aware, I'll see to the side of me, I'll have an awareness of what's coming, even though it's not in focus yet. Okay, and it's very much that having your awareness open, having your barriers basically gone or at least down, it means you're able to be aware of everything, and you can see the future. You can be aware of what's about to happen. And they've done studies on this too. They've done lots of studies where they show pictures on a computer screen, and people sit there with all those little things all over them, testing the reactions. And they find that it's like people will react to the pictures before the pictures actually show up. So again, it's that question of what are you aware of? Because the reaction is different when it's a pretty picture of nature versus, a picture of death or war. And your
Mm-hmm.
body reacts to that long before the picture is ever on that computer screen. So what are you
Yeah,
aware
our
of? What,
molecules are amazing, right? Our molecules
sorry?
are amazing.
Yes,
Our molecules themselves are amazing, and like
absolutely.
with how many millions we have in our body, they're contributing to that too, that awareness. So it's not, some people I've noticed have this or they've projected this onto me. So this is what I'm aware of, this is that they think that I have some kind of special brain. It's actually not that it's my brain that can perceive the future. It's like your being does that. So what if it isn't the brain? And what if it's something else? And like all of us can choose this. That thing around barriers and bringing your barriers down, for me, it was a really huge contribution to changing what I can perceive, the choices I'm choosing to choose, and that all this training I had done like years and years and years, like since I was like a kid, I'd been training for psychic training, right? I was going to teachers. I had so many psychic teachers over my lifespan, and all of them did this. You've got to protect yourself from the
Right.
evil. It was like,
Yes.
oh, okay, right, and that was all that fear-based protective stuff.
Yeah.
So I'd actually created a gazillion intentional barriers
Yeah.
that, through access consciousness, of starting to now allow them to come down, because some of them feel like I put them up there a really, really long time ago. I was like, wow, if we just pull down all of those, how much more could I perceive? And then how much more of a gift could I be to the planet and contribute to the planet? I think,
Exactly.
part of those barriers to like perceiving these energies is when we put up those barriers, how much are we stopping ourselves from being the contribution we can be?
Yeah, and that's exactly it. It's like when you're putting up barriers, you're not able to be aware, you're not receiving, and things can also not go out, right? So it's like you're blocking everything at that point. It's the same like we put up a barrier because we don't want the bad stuff in, but then if it's a wall, how is the good stuff going to come into us? It's not.
Yeah.
Sorry, my phone's buzzing.
Yeah,
Thanks.
the barriers are non-judgmental. They're up. They don't care what they're blocking. They're just blocking. And even though,
Exactly.
a lot of the training is like, just hold out the good stuff. Hold out the bad stuff and
Yeah.
let the good stuff in. Well, that's the
Yes.
judgment, right? So
It's a
your
total.
barriers don't know. It's funny, right? Like your
Yeah.
barriers don't know what's good and what's bad. They're just like, wow, you just made me do what?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So it's, and we'll play with that more in class too, how that relates to entities and what that all does and how you can play with that to create more in your life and to have more in your life and to allow more people and beings and everything in this entire universe to contribute to you.
Right. How fun is that? That we have these really simple tools and access that can allow you to start to receive even more in your life, and that you can have these conversations with entities of all kinds, like your house, like if you want to sell that, and
And
like
it's,
what if there are beings in that house that can contribute to
yeah,
you? There's so many avenues that this
yeah,
this class can
it really
contribute
is.
to for
And
whatever
houses are
field.
one of the easiest things to talk about, and they're also super fun. Like, how many houses do you know that are haunted or have been haunted, or you're like, I don't really want to be in that, or you hear weird things at
Loads,
night, and yeah,
loads and
because
loads.
it's exactly, and it's like they're so fun to play with because you can just play with them. And I say play because that's really what it is. You're just having communications with entities with energy. And sometimes you clear them and they go away, and sometimes they want to stick around and contribute. I've had house clearings where there was a lot of partying going on in the space, so there was a lot of stuckness in it, and having to clear that. And one of them, there was this tap where the water just flowed kind of like a waterfall, down, like across and then down the tap. But every once in a while it would just like spurt out and get you totally soaked if you were standing in front of it. And after a little bit of just playing, like I mean literally maybe 2 minutes, probably even less, of playing with what was actually going on, what was actually behind that, the water flowed perfectly. And I wish I had video recorded that, but that was when I was just starting out. But it was so beautiful because, here was this thing that she had had plumbers in, she had tried to do everything with, and nothing had worked and nothing had fixed it. And 2 minutes of playing with everything that is beyond what you can touch, feel, see, hear, and taste changed it all so that it just flowed and it never did it again. And
So
so
that
it's
was
like,
like,
what? Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, that was like $450 worth of plumbing right there.
At
You
least
know,
in 2 minutes.
yeah, how freaking
But
cool is that? And
and
no physical tools required.
yeah, and that's the thing, like, and especially with entities, like, um, if they want to communicate with someone, it might be someone that's in that house and it may be somebody that's not, but they found something that they can manipulate. And very often, water or metals, the elements like that, is one of the things that entities can manipulate easier. So that's exactly what was going on here. And it was just looking at what is that allowed it to change. And it's really
Yeah,
that simple.
really. I know it really is that simple. I was actually in a house the other day, and I'm really excited to learn the tools of Talk to the Entities. I've actually not been to a Talk to the Entities class, even in intro. I was going to gift my Talk to the Entities virginity to you, so I haven't done an intro or anything. And
How's it going any better than that?
no, it's something I just so I was waiting, and I'd been a little tempted to go on Shannon's talk, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna wait because I really would like it felt more fun to wait it out and just like it's like the sensation of knowing that something like really juicy is about to be presented to you. So I'm like, oh yeah, like that feeling of like the waiting. So in the meantime, I was using some other access tools, but not specific to Talk to the Entities. I was in a house, and I was talking to some of the entities in there because there was a lot of density in some of the rooms, and the owners of the house were very aware of the entities in the house, and they were almost getting
Yeah,
frightened of them.
right.
So, and I said, okay, like, but what is this? And then they were creating a lot of scenarios around what it was. Eventually, we did have conversations with the beings that,
Yeah,
and then things started to lighten up.
yeah,
And the house, what was really cool afterwards was that the house that had felt like it had been so rejected,
yeah,
when I walked into that room that was so dense, it felt almost like I literally, my body just went right up to the wall because I'm a cuddler. And my body cuddled the wall. And I have to say, I've never cuddled a house before, but it was really funny. I literally like splayed myself, and it was like the house just received from me. And I was just like, wow, I don't know what this is, but I'm just going to stay here because the house is receiving from me. And it was like this sensation of feeling at such ease that somebody actually would like go in and give it a big hug.
yeah,
And like you
yeah,
never know what's going to show up, right? Like that was kind of
exactly.
cuckoo, but whatever shows up.
I know it
It
sounds
wasn't the
really
ritual.
weird and very strange, but the thing is, it's like if you're willing to listen, if you're willing to be aware, then you can receive the information that whatever entity it is you're communicating with wants to get across. And sometimes it's as simple as they just want somebody to hear them. And
Mhm.
sometimes it's as simple as they just want somebody to appreciate them or to love them. And you find that a lot with things like the house you were just talking about. Sometimes people start neglecting the things they have, and then those things may not want to be around them anymore. You know, it may sound that things have a point of view, but really it's like all they want to do is be loved. It's much like if you were to have a pet. They just want to be there and love you and contribute to you and be loved by you. And when you neglect them or you don't want them around anymore, then they feel that. And then they don't feel like being around anymore. So, and
Yeah.
a lot of entities, they have similar things like that, or they're trying to get a message across to someone and you happen to be aware of them where a lot of other people are not willing to be aware of that. So, what we used to call gifts is more people stepping into and opening up to all of their different senses, all of the awareness that they actually truly have. So, would you be willing to be aware? Would you be willing to uh, receive that awareness, whether or not it requires any action from you?
Hmm. So I
I
know that
wonder.
when I was with a lot of the training I had done, I had all this like ritualistic stuff that was involved in clearing entities, right?
Right.
Get out your sticks of sage, go to all the corners, do your
Yes.
37 prayers in each direction,
Yep,
jump
I've
up and
done that.
down, turn
Uh,
around, take your
Turn around
clothes
on
off.
one foot in the middle. It's got
That's
to
what
be full moon. I know.
got
We.
to be the full moon. And if it's
Yeah.
not the full moon, you can screw up because, and if
Yeah.
they're not gone, it's because you screwed up. You definitely
Yes.
screwed up. Whatever you
Exactly.
did, you screwed up.
Exactly. And I mean, it's great to be able to make fun and make light of this. And I know a lot of people still do it. And it's like, really, it's whatever works for you, go for it.
Mhm.
I find the access consciousness tools and you talk to the entities cools, tools, so cool.
They are cool.
They are cool. Um, I find them so easy to use and so simple to use, and it's so pragmatic that, and it's talk to the entities, and you can use it in all aspects of your life. It's much like what you were saying about not having been to a talk to the entities class. You were using the access consciousness tools to connect with whatever was going on in that house. And it's that easy. You can use any and all of these tools that you learn in all of these classes and apply it to whatever aspect in your life that you're looking at. So really, it's like, what would you like to be aware of?
Oh, so much more than I am right now. So this
Right?
is
What
why
will it
I'm
take?
choosing this.
Yeah.
I'm choosing it right after another intensive. So there's an intensive class that Karlina and I are both attending, and
Yes.
and I've heard a lot of points of view like that's a lot of classes in 1 week, but what it is for me is like how much more change can I create on the planet,
Yeah.
and how much more of a contribution can I be when I choose this and this, not
Yeah.
just like one or the other. What if I could choose both? And what would it
I
take to
know.
choose both and allow
Yeah.
everything that requires that to show up?
Yes. And that's, with me too. It's like I just did 10 days of class and you think I need a break, but I'm like, no, it's like, I'm
No.
going to go to another 4-day intensive and have that much more and integrate all of the tools and all of the things that I've been playing with that much more. And then I get to facilitate a talk to the entities class and play with everything that I've just learned in those 14 days of classes and bring it in that class and take people that much further than they want to go and play with that much more and take all of the new things that I've just learned, all of the new tools, the new questions, everything that I've been playing with, and pass that on to all of the people who want to know that information, who want to change their lives, who want to have more fun, more ease, and be more aware. And it's also like you said, by choosing to be more aware, we are gifting to the world. We are allowing the world to have more peace and more ease. And we're choosing consciousness, which opens that up. And it is such a gift, not only to the earth and the world, to the people, as well as the earth itself and the contribution that we be to the earth. It's one of the things we say a lot is joy, like laughing. When you choose to laugh, the earth just loves you for that. It is such a gift. And when you're doing anger or when you're doing pain or hurt, you're actually creating that on the earth as well. So the more you can laugh, the more you can have fun with things, the more you can make light of things, the more you actually heal the earth. And I find as I become more aware, I have a lot more fun. I have a lot more laughter in my life. I laugh a lot more. And there's not so much that really matters anymore. Nothing is really that significant. So really, it's like a question of like how much more would you want to have joy in your life? How much more would you not want to be aware in your life? And how much more ease would you want to have in your life?
Loads more. So yeah, like 1% more? No, I like to have like infinite more.
Yeah, like at least 100,000% more.
Just for today, and then maybe tomorrow, not so
Yes.
much. Like like the sense of humor that I've noticed. Like, yeah, I used to
Yeah.
be like a real hard ass on myself. I've always
Yep.
had a wickedly strange sense of humor, but now I'm actually letting it show up. And yeah, even
Yes.
even some people kind of go, "Wow, what was that?" But yep, it's funny to me, and so I'm gonna
Yeah,
laugh whether you find it
I
funny or
know.
not. So
I know. It's like there's nights where I'm working at home and I'm just playing on the computer and some thought will come into my head, or I'll do something funny or type something funny, and I crack myself up and I'll just sit there and laugh. Whereas, years ago it would have just been like, okay, but I'm being stupid, or it's like, or that was a dumb thing to do. And now it's just like, oh my God, that was so funny. And I allow myself to fully enjoy that, and I allow myself to fully laugh. And I find it really quite a miracle that I can make myself laugh, which I
ew.
never used
I
to
tell
do
myself jokes
before.
all the time.
Yeah, I know, and they're funny. I think you get funnier when you get conscious.
We do
I
definitely.
like
We can look at some of the access facilitators like Gary and Dane, who
yeah,
for me, I go to Gary's classes because for me it's like 4 days of absolute
yes,
comedy fest. So
yeah,
and all the clearings that
yeah,
come with it are a bonus, but I got four
yeah.
days of comedy right there. So it's awesome.
Exactly, exactly, and it really is like this. It's these amazing energies that get created in the classes, and so much more awareness. And then all of the people who come to class, they'll ask a question which will generate another question, which will generate another question, and then you end up talking about something that's just like, wow, that's exactly what I needed to know. That's exactly what I needed to hear. And it's like, oh yeah, I do that and I can do it different. Or it's like, oh, I don't do enough of that in my life. I don't have enough of that in my life. So it's really cool to go to those classes, be in those classes, increase your awareness, and listen to the other questions that people ask, because most of the time they contribute to you and your life as well.
So these tools can be fun, Carlina. Is that what you're saying? Like it doesn't have to be
No,
serious, and I don't have
only
to do
for
them
me. Yeah.
22 times in the morning and 37 times at night. And amazing. So they can actually be fun, and we can actually have fun in class. And like clearing entities
Yeah.
can be fun, and I don't have to sit there depressed, like that I don't see what you see. That's amazing. Like I
No,
don't have
but
to
you know
be
what?
upset with myself.
Well, and it's like it is really fun. And the cool thing is especially when you're in a group environment, because you start to feel at ease during the class, and because you're all asking to be aware, it's very often it's easier to start within groups. And then having that experience, now you know you can be that, you can do that. And so again, it's like the Talk to the Entities beginners class is really about learning what the energies are that we've been aware of all of this time, but we've probably mislabeled or misidentified as something else. And so you really start to become aware of, oh, that's an energy. That's not just something that I think I'm feeling, right? Because I'll point out in class, it's like, okay, do you guys all sense that energy? And it's like, oh, yeah, I do. And then sometimes you don't right away. I mean, I was the worst for that. Like when I started playing with Access Consciousness tools, I had so many barriers up and I had so many walls put up. I couldn't even feel anything. Like there was actually physically parts of my body that I did not have any sensation in. I had cut that much awareness off. Yeah. And I could not sense energy. Like even when I ran Access Bars, which is one of the tools, um, I didn't know when an energy was running. I was just like, okay, well, I'll just do what they say and maybe it works. And, clients would walk away and they're like, oh my God, that was so good. And I'm like, really? It was,
Don't
I
know what just
hadn't a clue.
happened.
And same thing with entities. When I started playing with Talk to the Entities tools, I would just do an entity clearing and I didn't really know whether it worked. So I would just keep going and going and I'm like, okay, sure, that should be good. And then if I had to do it again, I'd do it again. And then as I kept playing with the tools, I became more aware of the subtle energies. And then it was like, oh yeah, something actually shifted. Or I'd clear some entities with someone and I'd watch their body shift in some way and be like, oh, cool. I just witnessed, like with my eyes, that something shifted. And as you keep playing with it, as you are willing to be more aware of all of your senses, you start to become more aware of the subtle energies and the changes that people like Gary and Dane, who are the founders of Access Consciousness, um, what they're aware of and how willing they are to be aware, right? So as you keep using the tools, you too create that. You too create that awareness that you already have, that you've so amazingly and incredibly blocked off so that you don't have to be aware of anything.
So true.
Yeah.
So also, I'm doing a lot of these comparatives because because I want to justify why I'm doing comparatives. So
Right.
one of the comparatives I'd like to also kind of bring to the front is that in a lot of past training that I've done, there's been in psychic classes where you read the other person and like and sometimes too I've been around people who have these talents to perceive energies and they feel the need to impel it on me whether I choose it or not. So
Yeah.
I'd like people to know that in this class you don't get impelled with other
Yeah.
people's um,
Yeah.
readings or something. Like if you think you're going
Exactly.
to be read, that's not the point of it.
Yeah. And that's, the basics of access consciousness versus being a medium. And like you were saying, sometimes you're willing to be that psychic, be that medium, and people actually do want you to tell them what you see, what you're aware of, that they're not willing to be aware of. So it's
Mhm.
whatever works for you in whatever situation. However, we are going to teach you how to empower someone and learn to actually know what they know versus, somebody telling them, hey, this is what you know. Because really, if somebody says, well, this is what's going on, you have to either agree or align with that, or you have to resist and react to that. And with Access Consciousness tools, we actually like to get away from all of those options and simply be, well, what do you know? What are you aware of? And it's like, could it be something like this, or what occurred at this time, or what was going on then? And by simply asking questions, what we're doing is we're actually getting down to what you actually know about that, and basically removing those barriers out of the way so you can see what other people may already be other people may already be aware of that you've cut off awareness to. So it's
Mhm.
really just a retraining of tapping into what you already know. So it's not somebody telling you what is, but it's actually somebody more asking you, what do you know that already is? Yeah.
Yes, so our knowing doesn't is not limited also to this lifetime, right? I think some people are like,
No.
well, I don't have a lot of experience in this area in this lifetime. Thing is,
Well,
what if it's not just about this lifetime
it's
and all
it's
the
not about
knowing
this
that you
lifetime, and more so, it's not limited to any kind of time frame. Like really,
have?
it's becoming aware of what you're already aware of and tapping into the knowledge of the universe. So the universe doesn't really have things as per time frames. It just has space filled with awareness, filled with information, filled with knowledge, and you can easily tap into that. I think people also use they usually have like a higher source or something. I'm going up
Yes,
because it's a higher a higher
that's
source of
right.
knowledge
You
or
always got to
something that they
connect
would.
with your higher power.
Yes.
Your angels is what you got to connect with,
Exactly.
because otherwise
Yes, and
you know nothing, but your angels know everything.
right, and that's and that also your higher self and everything else. But it's like, that's what's been created in this reality. And even when you look at religion, it's the priests and the ministers and everybody above you that speak to God. And it's like, why? It's like, you are a being, and even if you read the Bible, it says it's like you are made in God's likeness. So what is it about that where you cannot communicate with the all-knowing or source or whatever you would like to call it, but essentially the universe and all that is? What if you too had those skills and that awareness, and you can simply be aware just by asking, okay, what am I aware of here? What do I know about this? What information do I require here? And simply those questions can create an awareness of like, oh, okay, that. And then as you start playing more with those questions and more with those tools, you will start to trust the information that comes to you. Because very often we then go into discrediting. It's like, oh, well, it can't be that. And it's like, well, you just dismissed the information that you were asked for. But as you keep playing with it, you start to trust your awareness. You start to trust you again, which is something that you've basically gone away from since you were probably very little. And you start to have that trust again, so that when you ask a question like, okay, what information do I require here? You can actually receive that information and then use it for whatever you require to use it for.
So some of these asking questions, their questions are amazing. What I want to just allow people to also be aware of is that you don't always have the answer show up the way you expect it to show up. And in fact, if you have no expectation of what your answer will be or could be or should be, you might find that it's going to be just a little bit more fun for you. Just a little bit, like
And
that
yeah,
much more fun.
only a little bit, not too much, just a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, and that's a very good point. And when you talk about how to show up in the way you think it's going to show up, talk to the entities is actually a great example of that. Because, yes, it's called Talk to the Entities, and it's about communicating with all energies, all entities. And you would, most people who come to a Talk to the Entities class receive so much more of themselves, so much more awareness that they were not aware of before the class, which really, beyond the entity stuff, the class goes so far beyond that actually has nothing to do with entities. And that's why I said it's like, if you take one of these classes, you don't have to start talking to entities. It's just about getting back to your awareness and relearning and recreating the awareness that really you always had and you still have. But we've just trained ourselves to turn that off and to not listen to it and to not trust it. Okay? But look at it simply like, when have you followed your intuition and that has totally worked for you? Okay, it's exactly that. It's the awareness that you had, and when you follow it, things happen magically, things happen with ease, things just fall in place. That is exactly when you're following your awareness. Okay, it's all the times when things aren't going so well that you're probably veering away from what you actually know and choosing against the very things that you're aware of.
So we have a couple minutes left, Karlina.
Okay.
I just created the Google Hangout for an hour. Although, for everybody who would like more of this, I invite all of you. It would be such a pleasure and joy to meet so many new people at the Talk to the Entities class in Toronto at the Old Mill on August 8th. There's an intro evening from 7 to 9, and it's $50. That one is open to the public. And for the weekend, if you'd like to come and stay and play, and like, what else could you create with your life? You'd never want to add this to your life because you might make more money, because that would just be crazy.
Yeah, because entity definitely cannot not at all contribute to your money flows.
Never.
I'm not living off of that at all.
I could tell. I can totally tell. You're not having fun at all. Your life,
Traveling the
right?
world, doing whatever I like. Yeah, no, nothing to do with
Yeah.
entities.
And raising a pretty cool kid. So yeah,
Yes.
there's so many things that you can create, right? That comes out of these classes. But you wouldn't want to choose it if you want a better life. If you would like to have a better life, well, we're so excited and just in a place of like space and openness to invite all of you to come in. And also, so the weekend has a prerequisite for the 9th and 10th. It's the bars, access bars class. And for those of you who have that prerequisite, come on out. It's a great class. That the whole weekend is $600 and like amazing deal. I have taken I I probably could have owned 12 houses by now with all the metaphysical courses I've taken
Yeah,
over time. Thousands and
totally.
thousands of
Yeah,
dollars just to learn how to shield myself in a way
yeah,
that would actually not allow me to perceive. How cute was that? So for
right?
600 bucks, you could like add this to your life, and then by adding this to your life, what could you create with it? I don't even know. I'm just so excited. Like, what will my life be like if I see my eyeballs? I'm like, wow, what will my
I
life be like
know.
in 5 years if I choose this? I feel like bloating. My body's like excited. And I
Yeah.
would love for all of you to ask that question. And if you get that fun, expansive energy, please come and join us. And if you need the prerequisite, check out accessconsciousness.com to see where a bars class near you is. If you love me and Karlina just because you do, we'd be willing to do an impromptu class on the Thursday before class. I just offered that, okay, Karlina, on the 7th. We will create that if you require it. And there are lots of, yeah, isn't that fun? I just hiring you on your day off.
Absolutely. Let's just
And if
play.
Karlina
I'm
wants a
so
day off,
willing
I'll
to
just let
play.
her. So, so for all of you who would like to have that, we can create that for you. And we'd love to see all of you. You know, you might really come to that intro night for 2 hours, and you might
Well,
go, wow, that was phenomenal. I'd like to have more.
yeah.
How fun would that be? And you
And
can do that, and you can just choose to upgrade to the weekend.
yeah, and I just want to clarify too, the intro night, it's about 2 hours long and it is $50. And if you do choose the intro night and then you want to choose the entire weekend, that $50 gets applied to the $600 for the beginner's class. And the beginner's class actually starts with the intro. So that's included with the beginner's class. So with the $600, you get the intro plus the beginner's class. And you do need to be there on Thursday night if you want to do the entire weekend, because really class starts
Friday
then.
night. Yeah,
Yes,
Friday night
Friday
from
night,
7 to 9.
the other
So
Thursday,
that's going to be
Friday
at the
night.
Old Mill in Toronto. And if you don't live in Toronto, how much fun would it be to come and visit Toronto? There's lots of amazing things to
Yeah,
do. So what kind of fun could we all have?
absolutely. Really,
We're
because we're
really
playing all week
unsocial.
long.
So we're
Yes.
like the most unsocial people ever, so probably avoid you if you show up at class.
Yeah. And I just want to say too, it's like if Toronto doesn't work for you that specific weekend, I am doing different classes all across Canada actually. Some around Vancouver and Winnipeg and Edmonton, we're playing with and setting up. So do check back. But yeah, come join us in Toronto. I mean, really, it's a couple weekends away, and you're going to have me after I've just done 14 days of classes totally changed, and I get to bring all that yumminess to the Talk to the Entities beginners class in Toronto, August 8th through 10th. So please join us. If you require more information, you can find us on the Access Consciousness website. You can also find Milika on there, as well as myself. You can ask either one of us questions or connect with us through the Google Hangout or email. So yeah, I hope to
And
see
if,
you
and
there.
if you'd like to host Karlina in future, you can also contact her to do that as well. So she's such a bore to work with. Really, if you'd
I
like to
know
have
we have
fun,
no
work with
fun at
somebody
all. Yeah. And
never. If you'd like to work with
we're
somebody
not going to
who's
have any fun on the weekend either.
zero, I never have fun with you.
No.
so, so if you'd like to work with somebody who's like, and you'd like to learn some new tools, and you'd like to host Karlina, she's by far one of the easiest people I've ever had to host in my whole life. Just like, hey, what energy do you perceive? Okay, let's go with it. Woohoo! Like so much fun. I'm so grateful for you and how
Thank
much you
you.
pull down your barriers to receive any ideas that I throw out there, and are so good with asking the questions so that we can actually create this phenomenal class to contribute to the whole planet. Because really, guys, even if there's only
Yeah.
1,000 of us that show up at Karlina's class, we're all going to contribute to the whole planet.
Yeah. And it's like these classes are so much fun. They're one of the most fun classes that I like because they're always different. And there's always different people that show up, not just in bodies, but we play with a lot of different things and a lot of fun, strange, weird things come up that never get talked about. And this is one of the few forums where you can actually talk about all of that stuff. You can actually ask the weirdest, strangest questions, and we'll explore that and we'll play with it. So if you're weird and you're strange and you know it or you don't, come on and play with us.
Awesome. So thank you everyone for
Awesome.
coming and listening, and for all of you who are going to listen to the broadcast later. We thank you for clicking on the link and listening to all of this. And if you are going to be in Toronto at some of the classes, we look forward to seeing all of you in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye. See you
Bye,
soon.
Karlina.
Bye.
Yeah.